Hello, this is not Kamara. This is my first full length video. It's starting the academic year, so I might as well do something to start things off. You know, as a performance artist, as a writer, but also living real life as well as an independent artist and person. Things have changed for me financially, living wise. I'm seeking support from my GP and local people because what I do is self funded. So I'm an indie artist. Everything I do is self sufficient as possible, and I utilize all the things that I do. You know, I would say I've given it a really good go. 25 years ago, I left the mainstream system. It's been around about 23 years since I've really got my life going, but that's taken a really big challenge for myself. And I've had to overcome things like coming off medication, knowing who I am again. It's taken a good few decades to really get me to where I want to be and reimagine who I am. Now, this may, confuse people, especially those who are conventionally minded and all that. But I wouldn't say that I've made any mistakes. I'm living a life that is true of me in this world, in this era that we live in, post, the industrial revolution. We're now living in more cybernetic tech world, and this is my world. I created Mark Kamara International, but before that, I was Mark Kamara. I was London Youth Express with Renata Lefen Corporation, and I'm very grateful for Renata for giving me, for hiring me. I'm very grateful to her, and I want her to know that. Whatever happened at Cleveland Park is never here or there, but I'm very grateful to you for giving me the opportunity. I'm very thankful because that really helped me to imagine what kind of person I wanted to be, what I wanted to give to society and to all generations. Because I didn't become an artist for nothing. I knew what I wanted to do. No, I didn't go to university or college or anything like that, but I've never stopped further education. I've been associated with a church for many years. But again, I'm not religious. I'm a gay man challenging uh, the history 2,000 plus years ago and reminding myself I have to be true to myself. Yes, other people are true to have to be can be true to themselves, but we've got to get inside our houses and homes, all that, and public life in other areas, and out in and out. We've got to sort that out. We've got to create a harmony. Post COVID, this reminded me. You know, we've got to try and to break this fragmented society that we've all been living in. It's like we're treading over eggshells, and I understand people's fears and frustrations and misunderstandings and things done to them that has caused them to fear this and that and the other. But I couldn't do what I do if I wasn't self-sufficient as much as possible. Yes, I get support and all that, but ultimately, there are moments in life, things that people will never see, that are I have to be self-sufficient. You can't have professionals every single time, so I have to do as much as I can for myself, exercise-wise and everything, to put myself in a good position to be viable in life. We all reckon what is good for us. I mean, for me, I don't need much muscle because, end of the day, as a gay man, I think I covered that base anyway. End of the day, it's the guy I fancy at the time. But the rest is history. You know, it's again, it's not about someone's sexuality. It's actually about the actual person I'm having the engage and exchange with. So, you know, I just think we need to be honest, especially when you're in your mid 30s. I'm in my mid 30s, but I've never felt like I've had to look it or be it to be a certain way. I've never ever lived by conventional ideals or anything because life works in very mysterious ways. And again, I've had relationships with straight men. We both knew who we were. So that's all I will say to that. I've dated religious guys, spiritual guys, all kinds of people. But you know, does life move on? Yes, it does. We both learn life lessons and everything in between, but we all live our own lives eventually. There comes a point where we do that. We educate ourselves, you know. I'm not a politician or, you know, or anything like that. So, we all have a role to play and we try to do the best we can. When we find our lives slightly tricky or we find new ways around it, I've updated my meditation. I do sauna and steaming more these days. I find new solutions to get to a place where I want to be, more or less. I'm doing more research about all the things previously. And I would say all the things that people said about me when I was younger to my face, which wasn't flattering at all. To compare your old to for a professional body to kind of compare you to your own half sister. These days that kind of thing wouldn't really work because at the end of the day, I never really knew my father, and when I did, it was fragmented because the relationship with my grandmother and him was non-existent. My grandmother had a bust up with my sister's dad, so and told him where to go really. So that kind of my individual relationship with family members was not the same as my sister's and my brother. I would say, because when you're a child, you go to people that you actually trust, especially in a working class environment. As you get more older, you know who you want to associate with. I've never limited myself about class, social class, or career or anything, because for me, I have to be high aspiring, but never forget where I come from. But not forget I can make choices for myself, regardless of what people think. We all make our own choices at weekends, we're at break times, and I want to be living a prosperous life and do things that I've never done before in my childhood or teenhood. I think that's very natural to do that. But that's to remind yourself you're lucky that you're alive, that you're born to be alive, and life doesn't just have to stop because other people think they're more than me or whatever. That's where hubris and snobbery gets into a different ball game, and we have to lose that. Because when we promote that to our children, then they pick up on that, and when they do it themselves and it goes wrong, who do they go to? Who do they blame? So we got to be mindful. I'm always mindful of that, but I chose not to have a family, and I chose not to be a parent. But I have done mentoring. I do safeguarding. I have to spot things, even though other people think I'm not talented. I that in a way, it's about fitting a slot that no one is picking up, and I'm very good at that. When I hear speakers do speaking or religious speakers, I make sure that I'm very, very quiet and I'm listening to everything they say, just like and really listening and reminding myself what I actually know when I'm methodically and listening with respect. It's always done with respect. So same as someone that's walking. These days through meditation, I've allowed myself to really understand where I am with society, because you have to. You cannot seek approval or validation, or you just concede everything about you, and that's not really an independence I want to live, or an ideal. Because at the end of the day, whatever your conservative is somewhere in the middle, or you want you want emancipation, and you want to express yourself. Be more freer in life, more Madonna in life. These are all solutions and things that we can choose to be or not to be. But we've got to get out of this notion of forsaking people because they don't fit a certain box in our heads. Well, again, it's very easy when you're married or anything like that to close yourself off, but that gives off something else as well to a complete stranger. And people need to be aware of that a bit. Some people think some people's ego sometimes goes unchecked and elsewhere, even passively, or we all have to work on things. But it's people that you kind of sense that they do know what they're doing, and they impulsively they act in a way that they wouldn't do. We do need to have that conversation. It's the things that we think we can get away with, and then we do it, and then it goes wrong. And these things are starting to happen a bit more post-COVID now, and we do need to check that. The high and mightiness, and we're all guilty. We can all be guilty of it. To certain microness or of grandeur. We all think we're doing the right thing, but I've got life. I've lived to 36. I intend to live another 36 years plus. So I've just chosen to live more of a shaman life, to keep my youth, to keep my inner child, because that works for me. Because that allows me to stop chastising my childhood, and it actually allows me to actually have a better relationship with children, more or less, on a basic level. Yes, you listen to adults who are professional in safeguarding, but there are some things in professional life that sometimes gets in the way of actual effective relationships. Because not everything is all on a straight line. Not everything is all clinical and passe. It's not. There is fluidity, and sometimes you need those breaks. You need time to come off a trajectory. Like, everyone's life is on a trajectory. Not everyone's cash flows are the same. Mine's not. And sometimes people's spending habits change, and you try in your head to plan that you'll do better. So you're always challenging yourself every step of the way. This is Mark Kamara. Thank you very much for listening to me. I really try to keep it as authentic as possible, and to get to where I am currently. Thank you very much. This is for Kim Kamara. Thank you.